whatever it is that ought to meet the citizens, basically. So in sharing anything, in trying to avail opportunities, then regardless of your ethnicity, religion, you will get all of these opportunities as it comes. Now, it's actually very important, because how do you believe in a process, which is the democratic process, actually, when you are not involved in the process? So that conversation last week was to awaken the consciousness of our leaders and even citizens on how we can get all on board, right, in terms of democracy, how everybody can get involved in the process. However, you would see that it works hand in hand with our main point of conversation today, which is integrity. And this is where I will be calling on Martha to actually help us define what integrity is.
To the mic. Good job.
Yeah,
What is integrity? Let us know.
Integrity?
Integrity refers to the quality of being honest, transparent, and morally upright.
All right.
Yeah, so if we heard that, she said it's refers to the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, in other words, right? And basically, we all know what honesty is, but honesty actually has to do with always telling the truth and never stealing or cheating from one another, right? And to cheat means to trick or deceive somebody or to act dishonest in ways to gain advantage, right? And we need to also understand what the truth is. Truth means the quality of what you say being based on facts, information that can be proven rather than guessed or invented, right? So that's more factual than being invented. So to steal actually has to do with you taking from one person, right, or a system or a shop or wherever it is without permission and without intending to return or pay it back. Being moral actually has to do with being right and fair. Having principles actually has to do with strong belief that influences your action. So why it's actually very important is because some of these words would be used throughout this conversation, and it would actually be fulcrum. So Martha, what can you say about the subject we're having today, and how is it very important for us as Nigerians to embody, to imbibe this aspect of integrity?
All right. From the definition of integrity, it says it is an essential. It refers to the quality of being honest, transparent, and morally upright, and it involves consistently acting in accordance with one's values, principles, and beliefs, even when it's difficult or unpopular. Integrity encompasses various aspects, including honesty, ethics, trustworthiness, accountability, transparency, moral courage, and wholeness. Now, I always like to attach what I'm trying to say or the conversation with a recent happening. And one thing we talked about this morning was, the chaos that was in Rivers State, Now, when we're talking about integrity, when a person has integrity, that means the person is truthful. The person obeys laws. The person adheres to the rules of the land. The rule of law, to the rule of the land, the rule of the state, or whichever way it applies. Now, a person of integrity does not wait to portray his integrity when people are there. Whether they are there or not there, their word is the same. Their values are the same. Their discipline is the same. So say, for instance, we're here on radio and we have to be talking about our national ethics and our core values. Because nobody is here to supervise us. Of course, someone owns this place. Someone built this entire establishment. We will not now say, because the person is not here, we can just go about talking about whatever it is we want to talk about, or doing whatever it is we want to do because they are not here. Now, when we are aware that they are within the premises, we stick to what is required of us. A person of integrity does not concern himself with whether or not the people who hired him to do the job is there. His main focus is doing the job as is required of him. But this is one thing that we see lacking in the society today, because there's too many eye service, too many, moving here and there, people doing things just so that the world can see, so that people can see and clap for them. I'd always refer it back to the Bible. He says, whatever you do, that's how it is being said. I don't know how to quote it verbatim now, but the idea of that scripture is when you do something, God who sees you in secret rewards you in secret.
Yeah.
It's not about coming out there to tell the entire world that this is what you're doing. So at this point, it has moved from doing it because people are seeing it, doing it because it is required of me. Now it is doing it because my integrity will be at stake. My name is on the line.
Yeah.
So what do I need to do to preserve that name? What do I need to preserve that integrity? Is doing what is required of me.
All right. So quite interestingly, what I got from what Martha had mentioned, it's Martha, sorry.
Is that what you want to talk about, Abby?
Has to do with you doing what you ought to do, whether the people who employed you or people who look out or after you are present or not. You have to actually define how you need to act in the presence of people or even when people aren't watching. Innocent, having Martha said that, what do you think, how do you think one can build the quality of integrity? And as a nation, do you see us, individuals, do you see citizens being where we ought to be now in the aspect of being people of integrity? Do you see leaders being where they ought to be, basically based on the aspect of integrity?
Okay, what I would say is that leaders, the people, Nigeria as a whole, we are not there yet. We still have a lot of work to do.
Okay.
You know, when you were mentioning the 7 ethics and values that we as a country should abide by, I was just thinking to myself, we are very far from this. Because you see, we don't just list these things as because today we're coming to talk and then we list it as a ritual or something that we do all the time. No, we are speaking of these things because a people, a nation, a group, one of the characteristics of a group is what they are known for.
Yeah.
There is something that they must be known for. And from what you've read while introducing us, it means that wherever you find yourself as a Nigerian, people ought to see these values that are enshrined in our constitution in your life. You see that now? And integrity is simply you confining yourself to these values, adhering to them without any atom of compromise. You see, I think before I answer your question, let me make this little introduction. Integrity spans from the word integer, which is a Latin word which means wholeness, being undivided. You see that? So when you are focused and when you decide to adhere to certain ethical values, ethics and standards of a place where you are from, you are undivided, you are unbending. No matter the consequences, you must stand with those ethics and values. You see that now? So like I would always say, Nigeria is not a place, it is a people. So when the people, starting from the ones who are under the influence of our voice currently, begin to build the consciousness of being people of integrity, then the country gradually begins to change. Unfortunately, you can't go outside of this country, for example, and you would define Nigeria, with all due respect, define Nigeria as a country with integrity. Unfortunately, but you would see that there are nations you would mention, and there are certain things that everybody wherever you are can agree that this nation has this thing, like honor, respect, even integrity. You see that now? So having defined that, one of the key things that stands out for me as one of the ways we can build integrity is through education and awareness.
Okay.
Now this is very dear to my heart, because you see, what builds integrity is convictions.
Okay.
When we don't teach the people the truth, when we don't teach the people the right things to do, their convictions are wrong convictions. It takes you teaching a child while they are growing up, that you should be a person of integrity. You shouldn't be unbending in the values which you keep and the ones which you don't. Now, when that child grows up, you see that those convictions that have been enshrined in the heart of that child from when they were small, now that they are old, they can't depart from it. That is who they are. They are people of integrity. You see that now. So let's say, for example, myself, I come from a responsible home. My parents trained me very well with all, you don't play around, very serious. You see that now.
Is that okay, let's go.
Yes,
Martha, you will leave me alone.
Let's go.
So
Let's
so
go.
you see that now that I'm growing and coming of age, it is difficult for me to change from that mentality, from that ideology which I've been taught, which is the right thing. You see, so my convictions are strong with regarding that. You see, stop, Mr. Kamal.
I'm sorry.
Now, like I was saying,
Yeah.
so it is important that we educate ourselves. You see, whether we are young or old, because now that I've mentioned young, some people who are elderly might think that they are not included in this. No, they are included too. Though what we are now going to be doing to them is trying to correct. It will take some time, but I would like us to still accept the truth. Mr. Kamal, stop smiling.
We're paying attention.
I would like
Paying
us.
attention.
I would like us to still. I would like us to still be open-hearted to receiving the information that we are dishing out, because that is how our mentality begins to change. We begin to understand the need and the advantage of being people of integrity.
All right. Thank you very much. One would be really fascinated in knowing why Mr. Innocent kept on saying, Mr. Kamal, why are you smiling? Martha, get serious. Me and Martha were actually smiling to ourselves because all he was saying was basically defining himself. And we actually know him to be one honest individual, one consistent individual, and we couldn't help
Trying
but
not
smile
to be proud.
and
That's
really
nice.
understand, and him tying it up to how he was brought up, his family. It was more or less a confirmation
of
to
sense.
why he was the way he was, and it was actually very heartwarming to hear where all of that was coming from. Yeah, but throughout the conversation, some things were actually outlined. Some of the things I picked out from all of this conversation was, for you to be a person of integrity, you have to be honest, you have to be consistent, you have to be accountable, and then you have to be trustworthy. You have to actually be respectful, right? So, Martha, having heard you talk about some of these qualities and Innocent talk about all of these things, it's actually imperative that the listeners know how you can actually build integrity based on some of these criteria or some of these things that was consistently mentioned when you were making your submission. So can you maybe start with honesty? Tell us how one can build
Integrity.
Yeah.
The truth is, honesty, I'd like to look at it from being honest to yourself first.
Okay.
Because integrity is not something that someone can build for you.
Okay.
It's not as if they give birth to anybody with integrity. And like he said, some people just happen to be lucky to be around, parents or be around environments that encourage their ability to have integrity. But you see, honesty is a very integral part of our existence as human beings. And I feel like if you cannot be honest to yourself, you can't be honest with anybody and to anybody. First, it starts with being honest to yourself. Now, always tell the truth, even when it's challenging. Always be true to self, even when it's challenging. You see, something about integrity is, at first, when you start to build it, people might be tempted to say, this person's own is too much. The people who have integrity are the people who are the most antagonized in the society.
True.
Because when you start off, people will be like, this person is not being realistic. Why are you acting like this? This is Nigeria. In fact, there are times when I've been in a car and I'm telling the person, why do you feel the need to want to beat traffic? I'm particular about this because nobody likes accidents. But I personally don't like the fact that we set ourselves up for accidents. Why are you in a haste? It's going to take you less than 5 minutes. Will you die? No. Will life continue? Yes. If you die, will life continue? Yes. So why are you rushing? When you tell these people, they'll be like, Why you dey do like say no be Nigeria we all dey?
Exactly.
We are all Nigerians, but that does not mean that we're uncivilized people. When some other people will force you to itemize Nigeria and, how will I put it, barbarians together. When they want to describe Nigeria, the only thing that comes to your mind is we are barbarians. You know why? Because when you want to obey the law, they tell you we are in Nigeria, nothing works here. When you are trying to be civil, have a conversation. Why you dey slap this person? You go collect all these kind of things. So the first thing is, in fact, I don't think honesty is the first thing when you want to build integrity. The first thing you need to have is values.
Okay.
The first thing you need to have is build values, principles, solid character. Because even when you are honest and you don't have a solid character, you don't have, in fact, how can you be honest without having values and principles that guides you?
What are the boundaries that define the honesty that you're talking about? You have to be taught, given the values. You need to know the values.
You need to
so
know
that
the
you
values.
can understand what the honesty is.
Exactly. So you need to have these values. What are my values? Okay, if everybody is stealing, I will not steal. So when I come somewhere and I see somebody and they say, oh, somebody has stolen something here, and I know the person, that honesty is what makes me call out that person. Because I know that this is the person who did this and it is wrong to steal. But everybody will say it's the national cake. You can be around people who think that stealing is not a bad thing as long as it's our national heritage. You can take what you want. The next person that comes will take what can. What if the other people never make it to that position? So yes, the first step is first having principles, values, solid character. Build it and be convinced about these values, because there are many times when you will question your values because people have questioned it and have backlashed you a lot. But if you have built it and you have made it part of your character, then it becomes difficult for anybody to sway you just because they don't agree with those values and those principles.
That's actually very true. Now I'll bring Martha into this conversation, and it's just actually a very straightforward question, Martha. I've actually seen how you've conducted yourself also, and I'd want to ask an honest question, because this conversation is all about honesty, right? And you don't need to tell a lie because you're on the radio, right? You're working on this road and you do not have transportation and you don't have the hope to feed when you get to your destination, and you see 5,000 naira drop off somebody's bag. This person looks wealthy to you. He looks very alright and does not look like he has the need for the money, right? And then he passes, and you had the opportunity to call him back and pick for him or her to pick
His money back.
his money, and you also have the opportunity to pick that money and use it for your impending needs, because you didn't look like you had the opportunity or you had anywhere else to get that money. What would you do, Martha?
Depends.
Depends on what
Yeah, so it
exactly. I'm
depends on
interested.
what, yeah. So we're listening.
It's a conversation, Martha.
So
Jesus.
it depends on
Your conscience.
Your
okay.
conscience, okay.
Yes, if you have good conscience, like if you are honest to yourself, you return the money. But if you have bad conscience, like you have bad
Intentions.
the money.
Okay. So what will Martha do? I'm very interested.
What
in
will
knowing
you
what
do?
will
Fund the
Martha
money.
do?
Are
You
you
will?
sure?
Are you sure?
Yes, now.
Okay.
So actually, for everybody who is listening and watch maybe the YouTube channel, you would get to see Martha, and just by seeing her, you might just want to think she's someone of good repute, someone of integrity, someone who is honest, and that's why I asked Martha that particular question, right? So you actually spoke about Martha spoke about
Martha. Yeah.
sorry, spoke about having strong character, and then before being honest and all of that. Do you think, Innocent, consistency actually plays a part in all of this? Do you think there's a part of which, okay, you have to be very consistent with having strong moral principles, being honest, but then being very consistent in doing all of that. Do you think it plays a large part?
So what happens here is that for any of these standards, these values, these ethics,
Yeah.
the word build or the word building indicates process.
Okay.
There is the time factor must be introduced into building. Let's say when you want to erect a house, it takes process, it takes time. You start with the foundation, you start laying blocks and all of that. So when you want to build integrity, when you want to build any of these values at all, it takes time.
Yeah.
What consistency does is that it helps you build that value that you want to become a part and parcel of you.
Yeah.
Before anything sticks, it has to be done and repeated over and over and over again. Repetition is the mother of mastery. For you to gain mastery in anything that you do, you have to repeat it over time. I would usually tell Martha that she has gained mastery in the subject of presentation and everything that has to do with it.
Yeah.
I was telling our listeners in the last meeting about a function that she handled, and I was in the audience watching her and how I felt about it.
Yeah.
Now I was scared at some point for her because I was connected to her in a way. So if she had flopped, it would look as though the ground should open and I should fall in.
Yeah.
But then suddenly something inside of me said, "Don't worry, it is Martha." Now the reason
That's cute.
you will let me speak. Now the reason why that happened is because I've been able to see that over time she has repeated this and she's now a master in the subject.
Oh, wow.
So it has entered inside of her that if she's given such a function, she cannot disappoint.
Yeah.
So the same thing as integrity or building any other thing that you want to build. Because what consistency does is that you keep repeating it, being a person of integrity, no matter the consequences, no matter the place that you find yourself, whether it suits you or not.
Yeah.
What is right is right. So you keep doing it, and over time you become immune to those consequences.
Yeah.
You become immune to the feelings, or let's say how you feel when people talk bad against you or criticize you for being a person of integrity. Your consistency, that is repetition of that act over time, makes you become immune to all of those things. So consistency helps tremendously.
Okay.
And just to add to that, it solidifies whatever it is you're even trying to build. The
Definitely.
values, the principles, everything. It solidifies that.
Yeah.
And truthfully, like he said, do you know that there are certain things that you might never worry about as a person?
Yeah.
You know, when they are saying this is the consequence of, okay, say for instance, I think it was a couple of months back, the House sat and decided that anyone who is caught meddling in drugs or peddling drugs or anything of the sort will be killed. That's what was being proposed. I didn't feel a need to be afraid.
Yeah.
Do you get? I don't feel a need to be afraid. And I know a couple of people who will not feel a need to be afraid because neither I nor anybody I'm associated with would be caught up in such a crime like this. That's what integrity does for you. You know that there are certain situations you would never find yourself. There's this kind of mess that you will not be in because you've been able to single yourself out. I was talking to Udwak yesterday and he kept telling me about a friend who was in the force and everybody there knew who he was. So they want to share an illegal whatever. They want to share an illegal proceed. They automatically exempt him. They don't even bring the money to him. That's what integrity does for you. They want to go somewhere that is unauthorized. They automatically exempt him because he has a proven track record of integrity. And what is integrity? Character, values, principles. These things guide you to become a better person. It creates your own identity for you. So while other people might be whatever they want, you have been able to mold a character for yourself. You've been able to mold an identity for yourself. So if anybody sees you, what they see is what you represent. What do you represent? Your values, your principles, your character.
What they see is what you represent, and it couldn't skip my mind without me thinking accountability, right? I feel like there's a part of you being accountable to your actions, and also admitting to mistakes that you make, and trying to be a better version of yourself, criticizing yourself, tearing it up, and trying to be a better person. Because just as Innocent mentioned, it's a work in progress. You're working towards achieving it, and that's the aspect of consistency, right? When you were highlighting consistency. So how do you feel like this accountability can be built, right? I know I have mentioned maybe how do you feel like one can build accountability? Because it's an aspect of this conversation that is often overlooked, right? A lot of people feel like it's just about me telling myself I would be honest, and then I'll go out and try to be honest, right? But even if it goes down south, if it doesn't, then it means nothing to me. I'll go back home and sleep, and nothing would happen at the end of the day, because there are no systems in check. However, yes, when defining integrity, we mentioned that having that strong moral principles, that whether you're in check or not, you would go on to do the right thing. However, it's even most imperative, or more imperative, when it's your core, it's deep within, and you can't achieve that without that aspect of accountability. So how do you think accountability can be built, Innocent?
So the thing is this: people don't just by themselves develop certain characteristics or values or characters. Now, a child, when the child is young and is opportune to be exposed to someone teaching them about being a person of integrity, teaching them values and ethics and all of that. Now, that person has had the opportunity of being trained from when they were small. So a time will come that rigorous training wouldn't be necessary any longer, because that information has been imbibed into that child. So when the child grows up, nobody needs to be policing them around, because it's now part of them. But let's say for current adults who didn't have that opportunity to be mentored by somebody when they were little, what I would advise is this: accountability is one of the processes that you follow to build. Remember, that word is important. Build. After listening to us now, some people can be inspired and say, my God, I swear from today I will be a person of integrity. You just give them a few hours, not one day, give them a few hours. Some of them might relapse on that. But what will actually help you is this: find an accountability partner. That is number one. Find an accountability partner. Don't be your own accountability partner. No. If you do that to yourself, that means you will be the author and finisher of your own fate. So when you do something wrong, you just apologize to yourself and that is it. It doesn't help you. There is nobody outside of you giving you counsel, trying to rebuke you. You see, trying to tell you that what you've done is wrong. Now this is how to correct it. So one of the things accountability does for you is that having an accountability partner, you are able to openly reveal the wrong you've done, and that person now corrects you. So having in your mind that you have somebody who is watching you, who can correct you when you do something wrong, keeps you in check. Keeps you in check. Now, secondly, is I would advise that anybody who wants to truly build integrity should have a mentor, should have a model they're looking up to. When you have a model you're looking up to, that model draws out a template for you. And by reason of that template, you are accountable to the point that this, you know that this person cannot do this thing. So that accountability kicks in. You take responsibility, knowing that, okay, from what I've seen in this person's life, I should be responsible enough not to do this. You are now accountable to yourself by function of the person who you are looking at, because you have a model in front of you. So accountability is important, and it shouldn't be self-accountability. As important as that is, self-accountability being, let me balance this. When you're self-accountable, you are responsible. You have an idea of being a responsible person. You see that. So you don't need to be policed around and all of that. But as important as that is, for you to grow, because integrity is not something you just say to yourself, I'm going to be a person of integrity, and then you start being a person of integrity. It has to be built over time. So for it to be built over time, you need to open up to somebody, have somebody who will draw you back when you're making a mistake, somebody who you can report yourself to.
Okay.
You see that?
So in a minute, right?
Yeah.
Can you help us summarize your final thoughts on the
Integrity.
conversation?
Well, before we summarize that, someone is hitting us up here. Yes, he is IMA future president. He says, I love the work you guys are doing, but what is actually the work of the National Orientation Agency?
Okay.
They are only there collecting salaries without doing the job they are employed to do. Most of the orientation about ethics and values I have ever come across in my life is always from individuals and private sectors who take it upon themselves to do the job well. Kudos to you guys. Thank you so much, Ima, future president.
If I can respond
Definitely,
to that,
Mr. Kamal should.
Ima, future president, thank you very much for that contribution. And I would like to say that National Orientation Agency are actually doing quite a whole lot. My organization, Generations for Societal Change, are actually in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency, and they've been very encouraging in certain ways, right? And just as we had mentioned, it's actually a conversation that it's imperative and it's gaining momentum in the current climate. Right now we have an administration that are more interested in these conversations getting to the citizenry, and there are several programs actually outlined to be rolled out to citizens to help model our behaviors in the ways that we want it to be. So hopefully we will be seeing more of the National Orientation Agency and the works that they do. So Martha,
thank you guys so much
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kamal.
Thank you.
By the way, he
Martha.
was an amazing host today, and you guys would agree to that. Thank you,
Thank you.
Innocent, for your contribution so far. But truthfully, you guys made some very salient points here today, and anyone who is looking at developing themselves or building integrity will take these conversations pretty seriously. And just before we head out, Innocent said a lot about accountability, and this is one thing I would like to buttress on. Accountability to self, accountability to mentors. You need to help someone help you, or allow someone help you be accountable, to your actions. And when he was saying something about, I know she's not going to flop when it comes to this responsibility, it's not because anybody was born with it. Everything we have said here collectively, nobody was born with that. Everyone went to search for superior knowledge, and in a bid to search for superior knowledge, we came about these conversations here today. So first, be determined to be accountable to yourself. If you are not even willing to become a person of integrity, how can someone even help you? Nobody will be able to build that for you. So first, be willing to be a person of integrity and be accountable to yourself. But it doesn't just end there. Be accountable to someone else. And I think Innocent has done beautifully well with explaining what it is, what it will do for you to submit to someone else's guidance. Many times when I have functions and you are done, everybody is telling you did excellently well. You performed very well. I know what I did wrong there. You don't see it. Nobody else knows it. But I know what I had done wrong there, because I try to be accountable to myself too. Then somebody else who can tell me for a fact that you did wrong. This is not what you're supposed to do. It's not obvious to the public. It's not obvious to everyone, but I see it. That's why you need that particular person in your corner who holds you accountable for that thing you're doing. So it is difficult. Again, something Innocent pointed out, it talked about, yes, still on accountability. The fact that you want to be a person of integrity doesn't mean that there are times when you would not fall along the way. But the idea of being accountable is, I have done it wrong. I admit that I have done it wrong. What can I do to correct what I have done? That's what a person of integrity does. It's just like someone calls you and say, hey, you messed up. You're not supposed to lash out on someone the way that you did. The immediate thing to do is not to say, oh, that person is so annoying that I take responsibility for that action. I shouldn't have done that like that. Perhaps I got overwhelmed by how the person spoke to me, or I got overwhelmed by how that person treated me. And this makes life pretty easy. It puts life in a straight line, where if I do something wrong, I don't need you to call me out first. I know that I have done it wrong and I've repented of that thing I did. If you call me out now, I will not be so bitter because I have first called myself out. So please, it's not an all righteousness kind of conversation.
No.
It's not like Kamal is 100% perfect. It's not like Innocent is perfect. It's not like I'm perfect or Martha is perfect. But every day we strive towards perfection. And these are the things that help us build the perfection that we seek. I hope this is an amazing conversation for you, because I had a good time.
Even though my name actually means perfect.
Oh, wow. Perfect cannot be so perfect.
No, I'm still not perfect.
Yes. So yes, I think we're wrapping it up here right now. And the next hour, which is like 1 minute away, is where you guys get to make a request for the songs that you love to hear. Like I said early this morning, it's pretty booming in the final hour, because you guys come out in your numbers and make this request. And I look for the songs and play it for you. That will happen yet again. So let me hear you make your request of old school songs, please. Zlatan is not old school. What's his name again? Odumodu Black is not old school. What's the name of that guy again?
Ashake.
Is